right, Jeffrey, are we ready?
All set.
Okay, good evening. It is 6:33 on Tuesday, April 8th, and you are here in Development and Government Relations Subcommittee, sorry. Counselors on this subcommittee are Counselor Ocasio, Counselor Anderson Burgos, Counselor Sullivan. Counselor Devine is not able to make it. She may run late, so we'll see if she's able to make it later. And myself, Counselor Gibner. So, I will entertain the first motion.
Motion to take up item number 1, open the public hearing.
Second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, item 1 is a public hearing that's been continued from March 11th of this year, and that is for a special permit application for home occupation of Amanda and Marcos Garcia for a remote accounting work business at 25 Breton Lane. We have with us Amanda Garcia is online. She's seeking the permit, and we continued this public hearing because there was some questions about having the home office space, and there, I believe, more support letters came in for this, and we just wanted to, allow for the public to speak again. So I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so with that, the public hearing is open. And Amanda, I see you. If you want to just recap your permit that you're seeking and, your name, address, and the permit you're seeking, please.
Yes, hi. My name is Amanda Garcia. My address is 25 Breton Lane in Holyoke, and I am seeking a home occupation license for an accounting firm at this location.
Thank you. And I don't see any other members of the public. Okay. Counselor Bacon, you have a question, and may I just add that Counselor Bacon is online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I listened to the first public hearing, and something about the address was familiar to me, so I went looking through my past documents related to see if I had anything on it. And what I found is back in October of 2023, I had gotten inquiries from the neighborhood relative to the business operating at that address, with the neighbors reporting that there were people there at that time from Monday through Thursday and stating that they didn't believe anyone was living at the house, and also reporting that an addition was being built onto the back of the house. So back in October of 2023, I referred it over to one of our departments, and at some point, Dave and Pasek from one of the departments was looking into it, but then I didn't hear anything further relative to the matter, so I thought maybe this was part of trying to address that. But this was what I had in my records relative to this. And I would just say that usually when we do these home occupations, they're completely non-controversial and everybody in the neighborhood is favorable on them. It looks like with this one, we've kind of got a mixed response from the immediate neighborhood. So I just wanted to be sure that I did put the information that I had into the record for consideration of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bacon. I do have a couple letters that came in that were circulated through our assistant, Jeffrey Anderson Burgos, so I'll just read these into the record. The first is a letter of support to whom it may concern, we, the undersigned residents and neighbors of Breton Lane and surrounding area, are writing to express our full support of Amanda Garcia LLC's home occupational business and accounting business located at 25 Breton Lane, Holyoke. The Garcias have been a respectful and discreet presence in our neighborhood for some time. The improvements made to the property over the past couple of years have added value to the entire neighborhood. The business operates in a low-impact manner, and we have not experienced any disruptions, noise, traffic, or other concerns as a result of its operations. We support the continued operation of this business as it's at its current location and affirm that it does not negatively impact the quality of life or character of our neighborhood, provided all remains the same. Sincerely, Lucian A. Rivera Sr., 64 Kane Road, Holyoke. Here is a second. To whom it may concern. We, the undersigned residents, neighbors of Breton Lane and surrounding areas, are writing to express our full support of this home occupation business. The Garcias have been respectful and discreet presence in our neighborhood for some time. The improvements made to the property over the past couple of years have added value. The business operates in a low-impact manner, and we have not experienced any disruptions, noise, or traffic, or other concerns as a result of its operations. We support the continued operation of this business in its current location and affirm that it does not negatively impact the quality of life or character of our neighborhood, provided all remains the same. And this is from, I have a hard time reading this, but it's 21 Breton Lane, Holyoke, Mass.
Ralph Webb.
Sorry?
His name is Ralph Webb. He's
Ralph?
the direct, yeah, Ralph Webb, W-E-B-B. He's a direct neighbor.
Thank you. Ralph Webb. And that's at 21 Breton Lane, so that's right next door. And we have another letter of support from Michael Goudreau of 65 Kane Road. The Garcias have been respectful and discreet presence in our neighborhood for some time, and the improvements made to the property over the past couple of years have added value to the entire neighborhood. Business operates in a low-impact manner. We have not experienced any disruptions, noise, traffic, or other concerns as a result of its operations, and we support the continued operation of this business at its current location and affirm that it does not negatively impact the quality of life or character of our neighborhood, provided all remains the same. Sincerely, Michael Goudreau. And I will add that, are there any questions from the committee at this point? And I'll just add that Councillor Bartley has arrived in the chambers. So from my notes from the last public hearing on this topic, the questions came up. The main questions that it seemed like the neighbors wanted to have answered were, are the residents, are Mr. and Ms. Garcia living at 25 Breton Lane? And that seemed to be the main question. Were they living at the property? So there was some comment about the shades being drawn in the front of the home regularly. So Mr. Garcia actually invited us to take a look, and this home is lived in. It's clear that this is a home, and we didn't notice anything odd in the neighborhood. I drove around the neighborhood and noticed that all of the houses that are facing the street have the curtains and the blinds drawn in the front, so that seemed pretty normal to me. And there wasn't high traffic or heavy flow of traffic, so I personally don't see any problems with this home occupation permit request, but I just think this is the time for us to address any questions if there are any, and I don't see any additional members of the public here, so.
Linda has her hand up again.
Councillor Anderson Burgos?
Yeah, so when we went together to the property, one of the things I was looking out for, because in the last meeting, what was mentioned was that the windows are blacked out. And so I was expecting the windows to be tinted. And what they were blinds, just regular blinds. They're just dark, which matches the interior of their home. So that was the first sign of, okay, that's not what I expected. And the next thing, I'm not going to mention the things that were in the home because I think it's an invasion of privacy, but the things that are in that home, I can assure you, are things you would find in my home that I live in. It's plain as simple as that. And I find it hard to believe that we should have just taken the word of the constituent and just said, okay, I'm going to take your word that you're going to do the right thing for Holyoke and your neighborhood. We should not have gone to that owner's property just to investigate. I felt that was wrong to begin with, but just to shed some light, yes, this home is lived in. I guarantee and assure that. Anyways, I just felt the need to state that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Anderson Burgos. Counselor Ocasio?
Yeah, Carmen, Carmen, move the mic up to you. You gotta do that.
My question is that the three letters are basically saying the same thing, but just different signatures. I'm just curious, why is that?
So it looks, Amanda, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. We actually made it easy for their neighbors to write the letter. So we had in-person conversations with them on a regular basis to make sure they're okay with the traffic or whatever it is that was bothering this one very specific person. So when I asked them to write a letter, everyone's always hesitant. They're like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And some of the neighbors are older, they don't have a printer, they don't have a computer, and I do. So I said, would it be easier if I just print a form letter and you sign it? So that's what happened. There was another neighbor directly that submitted a letter the first time, so he didn't resubmit, Dennis. And so that's why it's the form letter. That's the only reason. Just made it easier for them.
Thank you, Amanda. Any, Counselor Vacan?
Thank you. This may have come up at the last meeting and I just didn't hear it, but I was wondering how many employees are being proposed for this permit, because I thought our permits were very limited in that regard. So maybe you already covered this, and if you did, I apologize if you already have that information.
Thank you, Counselor Vacan. I was under the impression that they have remote employees, but Amanda, you're free to answer that.
Sure, I do have remote employees. I have one full-time employee that comes to the office, and then I have remote employees in other states where I pay for them to be in those other states. And then I have a couple part-time employees who occasionally come in to the office to pick up stuff or do something, but I have one full-time employee besides myself.
Okay, I'm not looking at our law in that regard. I think our home occupation does allow for one employee in a home occupation, but not more than one, but I would leave that to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Vacan. Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah. Thank you. Good evening. So all good questions, and I'm certainly supportive of business coming into the city. If I recall the last conversation, and I recall the tenor of the conversation, it wasn't so much about the accounting business. It was more to do with the additional traffic and additional comings and goings of, I think, Marcos Garcia, who has used the property to store supplies for his own business. And I felt like that was the issue more than the accounting. I mean, accounting is fairly low impact. So the way I would ask the committee to consider it is because I don't, and when I get a letter from Ralph Webb, I'm generally going to be very attentive to Ralph's and Ginny's words. The way I would couch this to the petitioner and to the neighborhood is that these permits are for 1 year. Violation, and the permits are subject to review on an annual basis. And permits should be based upon generally the representation of the petitioner, but they're also going to have potentially certain contingencies, and I'm just going to run a couple by the petitioner because I don't see them on here. So if I may, just through the chair, and it's Madam Chair, it's Amanda.
Yes,
Okay.
Amanda Garcia.
Okay, Mrs. Garcia. First off, do you have any signage up there at all? And would you be do you want to have signage? Or do you not want to have signage?
No signage, and no, I don't want signage. I have no
Okay.
signage, I don't want signage.
All right, I see hours of operation 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I don't see the days of the week. What's your position on days of the week?
So my days of the week are mostly Monday through Friday, but really Saturday during tax season.
Okay, so hypothetically, if we said Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., except during tax season, you would want to add Saturdays?
Yeah, and it's not usually till 4, it's usually till about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, but sometimes people work during the week, so.
Okay, so Saturdays during tax season could be 9 to 2. You would accept that?
Yes.
Okay. And then parking. That seems to be like the tail of the tape on this. So you may or may not be there. Your full-time employee may or may not be there. Your husband may or may not be there, and the visitors. So what are we thinking about parking?
So currently the driveway is very small and holds barely 2 cars. So at the current moment, one of us, my husband or myself, will park in the driveway and leave the other spot open for the visitor. And if we're both home or the employee, we would park on the street. And there is no sign saying you can't park on the street. So there is street parking. So we try to park on the street on the side where it's most out of the way.
Okay, when you say parked on the street on the side, just because Breton's a dead end, right? So
We are not parking on Breton because there's a side street right there. Quote me, I'm not great at the names of the side street, but I want to say it's McMahon. So there's a side, when you turn to the right there, that's where we have been parking because it doesn't block anyone's driveway or any view, and it's against some bushes on the side street. So.
okay, so you're on Breton. Is it pulling out to Kane Road? Is that where you?
No, Breton. No, McMahon is a side street off of Breton.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And again, there are no restrictions on parking in a public way. Everybody knows that. And I'm not here to suggest to make your lives difficult. I'm just trying to hear what was said at the last meeting and follow through with that, because I don't hear much follow-up relative to what your husband's business is. And to me, that's where the rubber was hitting the road. An accounting business where it's primarily remote, dropping out taxes, nobody would care. I don't think anybody would care. But when trucks are coming, picking up lawnmowers and all the rest of the stuff, coming and going, it sometimes can get a neighborhood up in arms, and that's why we have R1 zones, and that's why you have other zones when you can do your commercial stuff.
So just to be clear, he doesn't have a landscaping business or any business like that. We just own other properties in Holyoke, and they don't have any storage, and so sometimes we have to move a lawnmower or something. But that's us moving our own stuff to another property that we own in Holyoke, and it is not a landscaping business, and it's only for properties we own.
Forgive me, I was going on my memory, and that's always shaky.
People are referencing it that way, but I mean, I don't know what else to do when we live here and we own the rental properties, but you can't just leave lawnmowers on certain areas in Dwight Street or whatever,
And you're
There's
saying,
no storage there.
and get through the chair, you're saying that you have no storage facilities at your other properties?
At one of the properties we do, and the other ones we don't, because that leaves access. Yeah, so some of them we do and some of them we don't.
Okay, so I'm okay with this. So no signage. The days of operation I can agree with. The parking, I guess we'll have to punt on that one. Visitors. So we have one full time, and then we have you as a second full time. So we have 2 full time, is what you're telling me. And what about regular? Do we take appointments? I think you were just saying last meeting, you basically people dropping off documents, and then leaving. Is that what I heard you say? Is that still the case?
Most of it is people dropping off. Occasionally people want to meet in person for me to explain their tax situation, but that is by appointment only. You can't just randomly drop in. And if people are dropping off, they've already scheduled. I don't just take random drop-bys anyway.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I'm thinking that this is. I'm feeling I'm going to support this, but I'm just going to leave it open just so you're aware. This at best would be a 1-year permit. It is subject to appeal. It's also subject to review on an annual basis. And I'm going to tell you that I love the fact that your husband invested in the city. I'm not going to take that away from you. And as you've invested in your city personally as well. It's just a question of you're in an R1 zone, and I heard what you said, that you can't help not having your lawnmowers or your snow blowers at the other properties. I'm hearing that completely, but at the same time, it may come to pass that you become big enough where this situation may require that you can't leave all your personal property that you need to operate your other business on site at Breton Lane. That's kind of what I heard the last time. So if I missed that, then I missed it, but I don't think I did. So, Madam Chair, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bartley. Any other questions? Counselor Sullivan?
I would just suggest on Counselor Bartley's suggestion about the tax season, that we don't just call it a season, we make it January 1st to April 15th, just to be specific on it.
Thank you, Counselor Sullivan. So, January 1 to April 15th. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing if there's no
I'll make that
other-
motion.
Did you ask the public if they wanted to speak?
Yeah, is there anybody
Maybe
else?
I missed that.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so then I would,
Motion to accept the application and send
With-
it to the, or not?
I think we need a motion to recommend the,
Motion to approve the special permit with the following restrictions, that there is no signage,
Right.
and that the hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 4 p.m.,
That's what her application reads.
and Saturdays from January 1st to April 15th.
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that's an aye for me, so we will send this to the full city council with a recommendation for approval. Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you.
All right,
Motion to take up item number 2.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 2 was a public hearing for a special application of Alan Finney for the creation of a Finney Family Cemetery at 2 Finney Road.
We have a motion to continue that?
Second.
Yeah, so the motion is to continue that public hearing, correct? And I'm actually seeking a motion to table this item and continue the public hearing as Mr. Finney is not yet able to test the grounds in order to get the testing necessary to install a family cemetery.
Okay, so we need to continue to a date.
May 5th, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, so we'll
Okay.
do that.
So that's the motion to continue till May 5th?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and with that, we'll continue this public hearing to May 5th.
Is it May 5th?
Motion.
Jeffrey, is that
item number
correct,
3.
May 5th?
Madam, yes, you'll just need to specify the time as well.
May 5th at 6:30 PM. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We want
Okay,
to take up 3, 4, and 5 as a package?
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, items 3, 4, and 5.
You want to take up 6?
Sure.
No, no.
It doesn't matter.
Well, we can still take it up. Yeah, let's do it.
Do it. Do it.
Do I have a new motion?
Yep, so new motion, take up item 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a package.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Items 3, 4, 5, and 6 to be taken up as a package. Item 3, Counselor Bartley ordered that DGR chair invite the state delegation to a future meeting. That would be you guys. All right. Item 4 is in order that the DGR committee invite its state delegation to a future meeting as well. And then item 5, Vacom Bartley ordered that the city council adopt a resolution seeking our state delegation to support the reinstatement of no electric tolls from Westfield to West Springfield to create an incentive for tractor trailer drivers to travel on the Mass Pike and to alleviate the increasingly heavy tractor trailer traffic on Homestead Avenue, Holyoke. And item 6, from Councilor Devine, also ordered that the committee invite in Representatives Duffy and Senator Vilas to clarify if there's a difference between the Affordable Homes Act and the 2% real estate surcharge we voted on Tuesday, 5/21. I think that was last year, so of 24. And if this surcharge on real estate is contained in the Affordable Homes Act, then ordered that our vote taken on 5/21/2024 be rescinded. So that's a whole other thing. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Yes, you'll have to make sure the green button is on.
Thank you for having us.
Good evening, and thank
Good
you for having us.
We do have some questions for you. I'm not sure if you would mind introducing yourself. Let us know what you do and, things the public may or may not know about you.
All right. May I? Thank you, Senator. I'm Pat Duffy. I'm the state rep for the 5th Hampden District, so I represent the whole city of Holyoke and one precinct in Chicopee. And for, complete clarity, Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos is my one staffer, so I depend on him a great deal. Also, to clarify, the one precinct in Chicopee, Juan and I do the constituent services there, but really there's a rep, Shirley Arriaga, who really represents the bulk of the rest of the city. So really, my concentration is Holyoke. Just got reelected to my 3rd term. I'm the vice chair of cannabis policy, and I serve on the Ways and Means Committee, Veteran Services, and this new, to me, committee on House employee engagement. So watch out, Juan. Yeah, we're ready. That's to get started.
Thank you, Rep.
Yeah, that's not John.
We're off to a wrong start here.
Oh, you're fine.
So good evening, everybody. My name is John Vilas. I know most of you. I know all of you, I should say. It's an honor to be here. I feel like this. Is this maybe the first time we've done this in person, or am I drawing a complete...
It's the first time you've done it in person.
Oh, John's been here in person. John's been here.
Wow.
John's definitely been here.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
We're going to start over. So anyway, happy to be here. I think this is, as I've said multiple times, I think this is really, really important. I think government works best when local officials, state officials, and federal officials have an open, robust, expansive dialogue. So I'm looking forward to this. Represent 9 communities. I am the chair of the Mental Health, Substance Use, and Recovery Committee, the Veterans and Federal Affairs Committee, and a special committee that we stood up last year combating anti-Semitism in the Commonwealth, and I'm on multiple other committees. And I'm just happy to be here to engage in this back and forth, hopefully some back and forth later on with the folks behind us, and just looking forward to the back and forth. Thanks for having us.
Thank you both. I know there's some questions that came into my email, and I know there's some questions from people on the committee. So how would you like to start? Councilor Sullivan, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to give a big thank you to both of you. I know there's an announcement coming, and we'll be looking to do something on the floor at our next council meeting that we've got $777,000 coming for emergency levee repair work that we need, and a big shout out on getting that done for us. The thing I'd like to put on everybody's radar, and that's fantastic, but we also have a grant application coming in very soon for dam and seawall work through that special state fund for dam and seawall. We are this week, we have the Army Corps of Engineer in here. They're doing a complete survey of the pump stations, and I can tell you already that we're looking at over $3 million in necessary work that needs to be done. So that's going to be a huge one for us coming your way. So keep an eye out for that. And also, we have another one coming in through DPW for a new centrifuge for our wastewater treatment plant. And these are both very vital to the city. So once again, kudos on the 777,000 that's coming our way. And we've got two more big ones that we really need your support on.
Well,
Thank you, Counselor Sullivan.
Yep.
yeah, I'll just, maybe we can go back and forth. I'll take this one first, you can take the next one first. Thanks for the heads up. We got that 700K plus because we've got a great relationship with the DPW, the board there. They keep us posted on what's going on, emergencies going on. So I'm familiar with the things you mentioned. I know that there was a great tour that the folks from the Healy Driscoll administration did of the centrifuge. Laying that groundwork is so important. So yeah, I mean, this is how it goes. Keep us posted. Let us know when you need like things like letters of support and all that kind of stuff. And we can figure out when we need to really like sit down and talk face to face with administration officials, which is how we got the money for the emergency repair for the levee.
I would just add to that. I just think it's really important. I think when I started talking, I talked about why this stuff is good, this collaboration. I think that is a concrete, tangible result of that, right? When local government reaches out to state, we've got a problem, and we sit down and we work together, hence the importance of these meetings, right? Like, I think one of the biggest issues that's out there in government right now is that many entities that operate separately in separate silos, they're not in communication. There could be just a dire need that one of those groups needs, the others don't know about it, and opportunities fall through the cracks. So I just think it's further the evidence of that relationship. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. Other questions? Should I start? Well, Counselor Bartley?
I'll go after you.
Oh, I was gonna, if none of us have any questions, I have a bunch, but I wanted to let the Palante youth also ask their questions.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll follow them, sure.
Okay. So if you want to just come up to the microphone and, you can state your name and address and ask your question. Yeah, right. So there's not like a direct interaction, yeah.
They direct it to you.
Mhm.
So that's why we avoid personalities and screaming.
There's not going to be any screaming. Yeah.
Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, y'all. My name is Annabella Reeves. I live at 7 Adams Street, Holyoke, Mass. So today when we got the invite, we took it upon ourselves to do a little bit differently. We didn't know if it was too much questions asking, so we have statements that we're ready to state. I'm going to go first, and then one of my youth is going to go. So the first one, specifically, we're going to be talking about the bills that are going up into the State House. Specifically, we thought it would be a great opportunity to speak to the two of y'all that are part of the State House and everything. Holyoke continues to struggle with issues of systemically inequality, racial injustice, and youth safety. Now more than ever, our schools need to prioritize the well-being of students in ways that foster belonging, trust, and support. The Counselors Over Cops bill represents a critical step toward a more compassionate, effective, and safe educational environment for all students. Placing law enforcement officers, known as school resource officers, SROs, in schools has been shown to disproportionately harm students of color, especially Black and Latino youth, which is majority of the population of the Holyoke. Numerous studies indicate that the presence of police in schools increase the likelihood of students' arrests for minor infractions, contributing to the school-to-prison pipeline, where youth from communities that need more support face harsher disciplinary actions and long-term negative consequences. Instead of being a place of learning, schools with increased police presence often become environments where students feel criminalized and excluded. Schools have a responsibility to protect their students. Counselors and mental health professionals are equipped with the skills to foster a nurturing and safe environment for all students. They provide essential services that addresses a student's emotional and psychological needs, promoting overall well-being and academic success. When students feel supported, they are better able to engage in their education, but also resolve personal conflicts constructively. By reallocating the funding toward counselors rather than school resource officers, schools can create a more supportive, inclusive atmosphere that prioritizes the mental health and success of every student. The Counselors Over Cops bill is a common sense approach to addressing these disparities. By transitioning police officers out of schools and requiring comprehensive data collection on SRO interactions, this legislation ensures greater transparency and accountability, which is crucial to the understanding and rectifying the harm done to students by the current system. It shifts the focus from punitive measures to preventative and supportive ones, recognizing that most students do not need police presence in order to thrive. The youth organizers at Palante Transformative Justice urge you both to vote in favor for this transformative bill, which will not only protect students' rights, but will also enhance their academic success, emotional well-being, and long-term development. Prioritizing counselors over cops is an investment in the future of our children and the future of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Would Rep. Duffy or Senator Vilas like to say anything in response?
I just think it's really important what you just did. Coming here, coming to a council, coming up with a statement, weighing in. You would be surprised, and I'm convinced that the rep will agree with this statement, as well as my colleagues in government across the board, that these types of conversations, good, bad, or indifferent, agreeing with them or not, it is such a critical and vital part of what's missing today in our discourse. So I give you all the credit in the world for just coming forward, right? This takes a lot of courage, what you just did today, and I think it's really, really important. With respect to the bill, I mean, I have a policy myself where I like to read it before I see it, so I just think I'm going to ask a question, and I don't even know if you know this, but it's not important if you don't, because you give it enough. Any idea what the bill number is?
Yes, I actually do have the number.
There we go.
HD.4297/SD.1699, and I'm actually part of the youth coalition, and also the adult coalition that is fighting for these bills for this within the State House. And for a while, I've been terrified to email you because
Now you're here.
Yes, I am.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to reiterate the thanks and the congratulations. Of course, I do want to read the bill, but a couple things definitely jump to mind. Before 2020, there was a big Criminal Justice Reform Act, and a huge part of that was putting forward policies where there would be less punitive punishment. Mm-hmm. And the thing that you talked about, data collection, that is key. Like, we have these great policies, but then we have to follow up and make sure that they're actually, achieving what we want to achieve. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention that Councilor McGrath Smith is in the building. Do we have another statement or question from the corner here? And just your name and address, please.
Mm-hmm. Jocelyn Serrano and 17 Beacon Ave. I also want to say thank you for allowing us to be here to talk about this, because I really think this is important. It is time for us to evaluate whether our justice system is truly serving the best interest of all individuals, particularly our youth. The Raise the Age bill presents an opportunity to make a critical and compassionate shift in how we treat young people who have committed offenses. By including 18 to 20-year-olds within the jurisdiction of juvenile justice system, this bill acknowledges the unique needs of young adults and promotes better outcomes for them, their communities, and the society as a whole. Neuroscientist I'm so sorry. Agree that young people in this age group are more likely to engage in impulsive behavior, lack full decision-making capabilities, and are more likely to peer pressure than adults. Punishing young individuals as if they were fully matured adults fails to take into account their ongoing psychological and emotional development. The Raise the Age bill offers an evidence-based approach to justice that understands this developmental reality. Youth involved in the juvenile justice system are far less likely to reoffend than others who enter the adult system. Young people processed in the juvenile system are more likely to complete educational programs, receive mental health treatment, and reintegrate into society successfully. In contrast, young adults who are incarcerated in adult facilities are high risk of trauma, violence, and long-term negative consequences due to institutionalization, including difficulties finding employment and housing after release. The Raise the Age bill is a proactive measure to prevent these harms and set young people up for success. By including on rehabilitation, the Raise the Age bill offers a pathway to a safer society where young people are given the tools they need to process their decision, avoid future criminal activity, and become responsible citizens. The Raise the Age bill is not just a matter of criminal justice reform, it is an investment in the future of our young people and in the health of our communities. By allowing 18 to 20-year-olds to be processed within the juvenile system, we offer the change at rehabilitation and the opportunity to move forward with their lives in a positive direction. The youth organizers at Palante Transformative Justice urge State Rep. Duffy to continue her support of this bill and for State Senator Vilas to vote in support of Raise the Age. On behalf of his constituents, and give young adults the chance to grow, learn, and become productive members of society rather than subjecting them to a system that too often sets them for failure.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Would you like to respond, Rep. Duffy or Senator Vilas?
So I have the unfair advantage on this one, this has been presented for a few different sessions, and so I've already been taught all the great stuff that you brought up, and so I already have supported this because I had the chance to read it, and it hasn't just been presented to me right now. But it's, like I said, data is important, and there's a lot of great evidence. And it's like other criminal justice reform moves that we've seen. I'm forgetting the technical term, but it's not intervention. It's rehabilitative justice, and what's pardon? Diversion. Thank you very much. That's we have veterans diversions courts, drug offenders diversions courts, and we find with, certain nonviolent crimes, investing in that rehabilitation, the mental health counseling, et cetera, it's really successful, and we help these folks lead the productive lives that we all want them to lead. So, thank you. Well stated.
And I just want to echo again, I think it's really, first of all, you started to apologize as you were speaking. Never do that. You have just, you being here, participating, a lot of my hope, and this goes for all of you, that when my little guy gets to be your age, that he would be willing to come forward and have the courage to come to a city council chamber and advocate for a bill. So you gave a speech far better than many of us who do this for a living. So
thank you, I appreciate it.
This is truly one. The rep just said something that was interesting, and she brought up one of the key points of this. The devil truly is in the details on these bills. We had a robust back and forth about this last session. And what I'll tell you is two things. There is a lot of data about, you mentioned 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Within that data, there's different numbers on those different ages. So important thing to notice, just to remember as you're kind of preparing for the next one. And then also the nature. We spend a lot of time, you're going to hear this in the rep reference, that she said nonviolent. And I would say that, like, the nature of the offense. We spend a lot of time talking about it. And that's what this debate comes to. But most importantly, just really kudos to you for stepping forward and asking us to support this stuff. Really important stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesseline. Alicia, did you want to add anything this evening?
No, it's a great honor to be in the space with you all, being community as always. And
Thank you.
Back at you.
yes, and come to CJ Palante. It's on May 1st. We've got flyers.
Thank you, Alicia. Yeah. We have a flyer on each table here, on each desk, that's about this event. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Palante. All right. Thanks so much. Before I start asking any other questions, I just want to point out that Counselor Devine has arrived on Zoom, and her hand is up. Counselor Devine, welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And I just wanted to thank those young adults who just spoke. It's not easy to get up in front of a group of elders, so to speak, and city councilors.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
I'm sorry. The state representative and the state senator that we have, and I just want to tell you how proud I am of you, and you should pat yourselves on the back and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Counselor Devine. Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you. It's always to the chair. Thank you for Madam Chair for your, and I know I tell you this, you're getting better and better at every single meeting.
Thanks, Counselor Bartley.
I'm very pleased with it, and I'm not being a pedantic jerk like some of your fellow counselors are. Okay, so a couple, three things. First of all, let's just start from the start. This all started when I got into office, and we started this process. Now, I never meant it to be a rule in city council. I don't even know if I voted for it, but I like it. No, it's okay. I mean, I wanted to continue the connection between Holyoke and Boston. We never had that. When my dad was down there, anybody before that, we never had that. And this is unique. Don said so, John said so. Nobody else really has this. Mike Kane would tell me this. I mean, Mike preceded me, but this is an important thing. This makes a connection. But you two have to carve out your time. It's a pain in the toe to come here, and I'm grateful that you're here in person. So it's a game changer when you're both in person. So your time is valuable, and we respect that. Again, through the chair, I took some notes. I'm going to leave that all to the side. What the young people just said. I don't want to comment. I have my comments, but I'm going to keep that to myself for now until I see something going forward. I have 4 or 5 things. I just want to throw out a few of them to you. In no particular order. First of all, the vets home. So Senator Vilas and Rep. Duffy should be very proud of themselves for supporting all this. It may seem like it's a no-brainer, but it's not a no-brainer when you have to go ahead and advocate versus Chelsea versus Boston versus elsewhere else. It's not easy. And so I think what we're going to end up having is the tallest, most beautiful building in the city when this is all said and done. So that's point one. Point two is I'm always willing to hear more about Chapter 90 funds. I'm always willing to hear somewhere over the $200 million level. If Governor Healy seems like she's receptive to doing something beyond that, but you never know. That's number two. Again, these are no particular order. The panhandling. We've talked about the panhandling before. So we now know that not only is there an SJC case, there's also a Supreme Court case saying panhandling is, in public spaces like that, is a no-go. So we all know that now. So at a certain point in time, we're going to get it to the mayor and we're going to get it to the chief of police. And why do I say this? I respect everybody. I know I talk to the multiple panhandle. I talk to them regularly. Why do I do that? Because they're right there on the flowers that I plant all the time, and I pull over and I talk to them. I can't say that for every other counselor, but I know I talk to them, and I want to hear what they're about and why they're doing it. One thing that bothers me is they set up their tent cities in various open spaces. They're all around. Mr. Vilas has been to several of them. I've been to several of them, but they're all around various open spaces in Holyoke. You don't get to live outside in Holyoke. You don't. You cannot do that. That is against the law. But yet we tolerate it. It took me almost double-digit phone calls to HPD to finally get the tent city behind Ocean State Job Lot removed. It has now been removed. But what is left behind? Barrels and barrels of trash. Now, I spoke with the property owner. I'm not going to say the gentleman's name because he also made multiple phone calls. We'll get a crew and we'll clean it up our best we can. But right now, the BOA should go up there and ticket that thing. It's not just a public nuisance. There's not just trash left behind. There's also needles left behind. There's plenty of booze bottles left behind. So let's just be real. I know we're all for helping people. Everybody, okay, let's just stipulate to that. We all want to help people. Not like that. So somebody's got to do something, and whether or not you can turn people around, you'll notice in Ludlow, do you ever see panhandlers in Ludlow? I know I don't. I don't see them, and I'm there pretty regular. So there's certain communities where they have them, certain communities where you don't. Why is that? I don't have the answer, so I want that to be fully known. I wrote a note here. I can't read my darn. That's pathetic. So I want to go with two more. Linda and I co-filed an order a year or so ago, and it has to do with the fact that the Commonwealth, not only did it renege, in fact, in other words, that's a fancy word for they flat out lied, to say that the Pike was going to be a free road. Well, that was a flat out lie, and everybody knows it now. But what kills me, and what kills Holyoke, and specifically what kills Route 202 Homestead Avenue, is that the massive truckers coming from the beautiful city of Westfield to duck the Pike tolls come over the hill and they barrel down Route 202 to get to wherever they're going so they can hop on 91 so they can duck the tolls between Westfield and West Side. To me, that is a simple fix. It used to be free. It was free for a period under Governor Weld, but it's no longer free. But it would be nice if even your big truckers could just have a freebie between Westfield and West Side. I think it would be a game changer in far the deterioration of the road, and which are state roads, the amount of traffic, the congestion, the pollution. I could go on. You both know what the consequences are. I don't want to hear about data, produce data. Okay, we're all part-time people here. I don't want to hear produce data. But I think you both know that there is a deleterious effect because of those 18-wheelers barrel all around the city. Somebody in Boston can at least begin the conversation. I love that phrase, start the conversation. Okay, start the darn conversation, but maybe do something about it. Sponsor a bill and see if cooler heads than mine, certainly, can come together and understand that this is not the best case scenario, and it probably has a de minimis impact on the revenue towards the Commonwealth in terms of transportation dollars. But just between West Side and Westfield, whatever that is, John, is 4 miles. I don't know what it is, but it's not much more than that. And yet that gantry's right there, and those truckers just duck it. And mainly it's the ones from the Route 202 and all the carve-offs up at 202. They specifically avoid that so they can, the budget-conscious ones do, especially when they're traveling north to upper New England and over to Canada, because there's a lot of them that do that. And somebody can say, well, how many trucks? I don't know how many trucks there are, but it's a lot. You ask the people on Homestead Avenue, it's a lot of trucks that barrel around down there. Okay, the last one is, hold on my calls. The last one is, for right now, we've heard a lot about pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. Now, that's something that I've been pretty out front on. I'm glad to see the mayor's followed in my wake, and the mayor's doing a lot of that too, and he should be credited for that. It was yours truly that brought it to the mayor's attention when he first came to office, and he's trying to do his best to, but it's not easy. It's not easy at all, and we know that. but there are two areas where you should be well aware of what's going on. I was just were you part of the phone call, counselor, from Columbia University? Did they say your name to me? Well, I thought they did. It doesn't matter. But Columbia University is about to publish a study. I took part in it. Mr. Garcia took part in it. And a couple others here did as well, relative to the Green Tech Performance Center. Okay, well, good for you for paying a pilot. I think it's $80,000. It might be $100,000. It might be $120,000, but it's not. It's no more than that. I bet Mike knows the exact number because Mike follows this stuff. But they are, in my opinion, they're a credit to the city. And they built a pretty building, and they employ maybe a baker's dozen. Again, Mike probably knows. And they pay a little bit of a pilot. And they produce, and they pay their utility bills, which is great. And they pay a de minimis, relatively speaking, pilot. And that pilot doesn't cut it. They represent massive universities with billions of dollars in endowment funds, including my alma mater, but also BU, BC, Harvard, NU, and beyond. These are massive institutions. They're running the computing power that funds all their research. I don't know what it does for Holyoke, and that's why I told Columbia. I have no idea what it does for Holyoke. Nobody's ever expressed anything. I know they're paying their utility bill, and I know they pay about $80,000 to $100,000 a year in a pilot on a staggered monthly basis. And I employ about a baker's dozen people. To me, they could do a lot better than that. And I say they could do better than that, and this is my last point. In Massachusetts law, there is a pilot provision in state law for the state forests. I hope you're all, Diana, believe me, she's the biggest self-promoter I've seen in government in a long time. And she's great at that. But the office did produce a report that was just published in February. It's on the MMA website, and maybe you want to read it. I read it. It's not that hard to read. But basically, I worked in the auditor's office for 18 years, and those reports were hard to read, and I wrote many of them. But I will say that this report is filled with graphics and filled with data and filled with disparities between Eastern Mass and Western Mass. And don't kid yourself. So 2 points. One is there is a provision in state law to demand a pilot payment. So it can be done. I don't want to hear it can't be done, because in state law, the Commonwealth has to pay, by virtue of state law, a payment in lieu of taxes to the municipalities that host state forests. So that's part one. Holyoke obviously it's under 1,000 acres, but it's, well, Michael, whatever Mount Tom, it's a lot of acres. How many acres is it, Mike? It's under 1,000, I think. Okay, better than that. It's over that. So the audit report
My
was...
microphone was off. It's over that.
Okay, the audit report said something different. And the audit report focused on certainly this area, Southampton, but it focused on payments per acre for hosting state forests compared. So in other words, Suffolk County has per acre payment of $5,300 per acre. Little Savoy. Do you know where Savoy is? Have you ever been to Savoy, Pat? Do you know where it is?
Is it off one of those highways? Have I driven through it?
You haven't, unless you went to North Adams, you didn't drive through it. But I've been to Savoy so many times in my former career, it's horrible. $6 an acre. So Suffolk County gets $5,500 per acre. Little teeny tiny Savoy, Mass, $6 an acre. It's the same gosh damn trees. Now and the median is $127 an acre, and that's absolutely on point. Western Mass, we don't even come close to the median. And Holyoke I didn't get the number of Holyoke because it wasn't in our report, but Western Mass in Hampden County, I think it was in the 60s per acre. So we'll just say Holyoke is getting 60 per acre. So the median's 127, Little teeny tiny Savoy gets 6. Suffolk County, $5,355 per acre. Plymouth County, Essex County. Now I know all the beautiful people up there in Essex. Good for them. They're making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars per acre. It's not fair. Now, we all know I started out, how did I start out this part? Right with the vets home. Okay, so let's be real. The Commonwealth has come up big. A lot of the funds came to the federal government. Okay, so they were passed through. So we know that's true. John can quote all those numbers. And we appreciate all, and we could talk about Chapter 70 for the city. Okay, we all know that. But if you want to pass a state law, which obviously you guys voted for it, to have this formula, well, the formula should have some basis in fairness, should it not? And I thought the number was, and I was going on the audit report, because the audit report said we don't have 1,000 acres, but Councilor Sullivan, he's walked almost not every yard, but he's walked most of those acreage in his lifetime. He's an avid hiker. And so I would say, and there's so many, that's such a beloved area. And, maybe if the funds came back, maybe they could be dedicated for preserving open space. I'm not saying they all got to go back to the general fund, because that's almost unfair. But it would be nice if there was some kind of a review of that law. Certainly review the audit report, and maybe speak to Diana about that and her team, and then maybe you want to circle back to us when the chair, and I'll end here, when the chair wants to bring it back. I think our order says twice a year, and that's kind of tough, but at least once a year, when you come back in the fall, or you come back next winter, or you want to send us a communication in the meantime, I for one would love to hear you. So just the Pike thing is killing me. The pilot for the city, for the state forestry, that's killing me. The panhandling, we'll deal with it, but right now, it would be nice to have more specific statewide enforcement powers. Maybe because we do have a lot of state police around the city. Again, I'm not being mean. I don't want to hurt anybody. Okay, I just want to sort of figure out a way that we can mitigate this stuff. Chapter 90 is always a big one, and that's for city. Okay, that's a big one. And I just want to say thank you again for that building is really coming along great. We've had a couple of bumps in the road. I only live within a mile there, so it doesn't really affect me. But whatever problems there were, it took a while to solve them. But they weren't like, they weren't horrible, but they affected quality of life. But after a period of time, they now seems to be resolved. So ultimately, the contractors and DCAM were responsive to us. So look, there's no way you're going to give me straight answers on all these stuff, because you don't have time to prepare for it. But just thoughts to consider. Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Would you either of you like to respond to any of that right now?
No, first and foremost,
Thank
I would
you.
just say, I think to the councilor's point, and more than happy to come on a more frequent basis. So I appreciate that. So 2, I think is absolutely appropriate. Full disclosure, I need to know more about the state forest program. I guess the first question that I would have is, does the city itself need to take any affirmative action for that to be effectuated? And I don't know the answer to that question. But more than happy. We talk about the Savoy, Eastern Mass, Essex County. The difference is, if this is dollars that we can chase down for the community, I'm all for it. I just, full disclosure again, don't know enough about it. And then kind of, I guess, going back to the top, yeah, the vets home, I concur with the assessment. Have there been a few challenges? Yeah, but I think maybe not as fast as we want them to, but we have worked through the issues as they come in. And I credit you, Counselor, right, for having the meeting that we went. I forget where it was. I think it was at Dino's.
Yeah, we had a couple.
Yeah, we had a couple meetings, and I just think it's really important, again, continuing that people are impacted by the government, and anytime we come together. The Chapter 90, the Chapter 70 stuff, I'm all on board. We had a meeting recently with the Secretary of Transportation, and I think the point that we conveyed, and I think in a really effective way, was that much of the legislation that is out there, although we love and applaud this commitment to transportation, the current breakdown of that, with the T getting a bulk of that, is just not going to work for us, and we're going to get a chance to try to change that. And the secretary, and this is the good news, indicated a willingness to work with us. And there's a lot of talk of moving from the formula that they do, right, to kind of going more. They realize in Western Massachusetts, this is the history of it. We've got a lot of mileage, but we don't have as much population. They entertained, the secretary to us said, maybe we need to, as we're already doing in some respects, look at changing that formula. That was a really big win for me, changing that formula and recognizing that, yes, we are not as populated, but we do have many, many, many miles of roads. I mean, some of the really big communities out here in Western Massachusetts. The panhandling, Counselor, I think you indicated about maybe introducing something in the city. Obviously, we take a look at anything that comes our way. And if that is something that the council is inclined to do, by all means, I know that you'll keep us in the loop on that. And obviously, we take a look at everything that you send us. No idea about the Columbia University stuff. But I think that was tied to the MMA, the pilot payment, and all that stuff, which, again, I just do not know enough about. But, again, I just want to conclude with this before I turn it over, if the rep wants to say anything. I just love the back and forth. I think this is really, really important that we have these conversations. And I'd like to think that all of you, if you don't, you need to get it from me. But I think everybody here has my cell phone. I mean, we can come here twice a year, and we can also talk whenever you want to talk. So, Rep, if you have anything.
Yeah, just to add, I agree with everything the senator said. And on the general theme of fairness between funding and resources on the eastern part of the state to the western part of the state, I'm right on board. And I think that our Western Mass, that 413 delegation, is growing stronger and stronger. There's been some shakeup and turnover, just like natural, people retiring, all that kind of stuff. And we're all kind of, I think, coming more into our own and moving up in leadership. So we've got, we're starting to have regular meetings, and this is a constant theme that, there is a lot of money going to the T on the budget that I am voting on tomorrow. And I understand that it's important for Boston to have reliable public transportation. So we don't have to take anything away from that, but how about a little bit more out here? And we called the transportation secretary in, and she expressed a willingness to look at changing the formula for, RTAs or something, how they get funded. So we're headed down that road as well. Speaking of the Western Mass delegation, I believe our dear colleague, Rep. Natalie Blais, actually has legislation proposed dealing with the state-owned land and that the reimbursement, the pilot payments out here aren't as good. So always supporting that kind of stuff. Speaking of pilots, this is just sort of an example for all of you. I did have a great meeting with Councilor McGrath about concerns in her ward and some concerns for, there are some group homes moving in. And these are great programs. We support them. At the same time, it's important that these establishments are moving into neighborhoods, so there should be some sort of standards for meeting the neighborhoods. And let's propose, can you pay a pilot? Let's just have, I know you're squeamish about this phrase, but let's just have the conversation. So with her help, we've both filed legislation that actually she wrote. It's going to be heard in housing, and let's have the conversation, hear people's concerns, hear how we could maybe make it better. Maybe we could get something moving on that. The Mass Pike, yeah. I will say there have been a couple of meetings on a couple of these topics. anytime, and we've done it before, anytime we want to bring the MassDOT, the District 2 office, I think those people are incredible. Bring them down, hear concerns from the neighborhood, like, we can make that happen. We've done it before, happy to do it again. Panhandling, the Board of Public Health, Tim Rivers is incredible, and is trying to set up protocols and supports and resources, because you're right, we can't have health hazards around the city, and we all want to care for these people. So meet them where they're at. So I know that Tim Rivers is working with local community groups who are, who do the organizing, meet some of these folks right where they're at, and figure out safety protocols for getting people shelter. And Soldiers Home, yay. Looking forward to that ribbon cutting.
I know the councilor doesn't want me to use this word data, but I am going to say this because it actually reinforces a point he's made. So we spend a lot of time, right? Whether it's here at Holyoke, Mass and Cass in Boston, and everything in between. There are any number of communities where you're seeing kind of buildups, if you will, of folks who are trying to help out, right? People with profound behavioral health concerns, mental health, substance use disorders, etc. And what we do know from the data, and I know I'm close, so I know I might get a hook right here real fast, but what we know from the data is that it is true, right? It is a public health concern, right? But there's also anyone who says that there's not a public safety component of this. I just don't think that that's an accurate, candid way to look at it, because the reality is this. What the counselor raised about whether it's needles, booze bottles, and stuff like that, you can't with a straight face say that's not part of the conversation. You have to acknowledge it. And the good news is that there is a way to be compassionate, empathetic, and try to get people the help they need, while at the same time recognizing that, this person walking their kid to school doesn't want to worry about stepping on a needle. Like, that is a very legitimate concern that I think we can all acknowledge. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I just think it's approaching it that way. And look, I think it's important to just say this, right? Because it's, this great city has experienced it lately, right? With the federal government clawing back money. It is absolutely, to say that there is ambiguity and uncertainty out there right now with the climate is probably it's probably an understatement. And I'm not looking to have any type of a political conversation here, not important. I'm just telling you that there are a lot of things that can happen in a split second where it's, oh, okay, that just happened. Oh wait, it didn't happen, and kind of this back and forth that it's just really difficult to follow the proposals versus the actualities, things actually happening. So I offer that for no other reason than just to say that these are some, I don't know if I'm going to say unprecedented, because that's a pretty bold phrase to say, and maybe it is unprecedented, but there are a lot of uncertainties out there that impact every level of government, that impact every single person in the room, the folks who were so greatly testified a little while ago, and I just think it's really, really important. And there is going to be a realization, I think, that we are going to be asked to do more with less. And I just think I don't think it benefits any of us to not accept that reality and deal with it head on. That's just the world we are in right now. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's where we are.
Thank you. Councilor Sullivan has been waiting patiently.
Now, this is great because you've reminded me of a couple of things, and they tie together. First of all, with the speakers we had earlier, right? Talking about diversion programs, and what Councilor Bartley brought up about the panhandlers, all right? And this ties together very nicely. A diversion program for people that have deteriorated beyond the ability of all the other programs we already have in place, all right? A diversion program which is called the Hampden County House of Correction. And I'm not talking about incarceration. What I'm talking about is a 180-day program that they have there to help these people, all right? And it is being underutilized, and it is because the judges refuse to put them into that program, all right? So, having said that, I thanked you earlier, all the hard work you did getting us that grant, right? The grant for the levee repair. That levee repair damage was done by a homeless encampment that burned brand new aluminum stop log structures in the flood wall. All right? So there's an example there, $700,000. That's more than the cost of 2 new centrifuges that we need for our water treatment facility that affects 38,000 people because of one small group. Our DPW had to go in there and clean up that encampment, and there was dozens and dozens of needles all over the place. All right? So there's something to think about how our resources are also squandered and affected by this. So, you know, that just tied in with 2 or 3 other conversations. So all that hard work to get that grant, you know, I mean, it's great, but this is why. This is why. Number 2, we've got what Councilor Bartley mentioned about the pilot program with the high-speed computing center. Let's not kid ourselves here either. They're not a great customer for Holyoke Gas and Electric. They're not a great customer. They're here because we have the lowest electric rate in the state. So on top of not paying us any money in the form of a pilot, all right, a pittance, an absolute pittance, all right, whether it's $80,000 now or if they increased it to $100,000, that's a $120 million facility, all right? And like Councilor Bartley said, for schools that have billions and billions and billions in endowment money, and nothing they promised was ever brought to the city. Other businesses were going to come here because they wanted to be around it. All a complete waste, all right? And they're just sucking up the green energy and enjoying the benefits of what the city has to offer. And that green energy, right, that they're getting at a fraction of the price they'd get it anywhere else, is we could be using to attract more businesses like the ones we have coming here, like Sublime and these other ones coming out of Greentown Lab. All right? So that's something to think about not only aren't they paying, but the real impact it has on the city of us being taken advantage of by these big universities. All right? So that was my second point. The third, we had a great visit with Kristen Olechko. I hope I pronounced her name correctly, right? But we have going on right now through HEDIC and through OPED, and Aaron Vega and his staff have been putting in a lot of work on it. We've been meeting with the people from ENGIE. We have a tremendous opportunity at the former coal plant where the power plant was. We have 90 acres up there, and we're going to need a lot of help because of other issues within the state that are going to affect as we begin negotiations to try and develop and bring industries into that area. All right, so that's something to really, if you can keep up the conversation with the Lieutenant Governor. She's been very active with it. Kristen's been very good, but we got to keep the ball rolling on it. And now we have an opportunity also. We have another former coal site. We had a coal gasification plant right here. It's in another prime location, but it's an absolute brownfield. It's been abandoned for 70 years now. It used to convert coal into gas to light the streetlights. I think the mayor just put a thing out on his social media post. On this day, this number of years ago, the last gas street light in Holyoke was turned off, all right? But that plant is still sitting there. And the interesting thing is it's sitting between the hydro units at the dam, the hydro units on the canal, and the solar field. So what an ideal location to put on the map. This is a story the state likes to tell about what happens with these sites. The fourth was just a question. Do we have anybody else from Western Mass, from the 413 on the Ways and Means Committee? Or are you the only
Yeah,
one?
there's myself, Orlando Ramos, Shirley Arriaga, Lindsay Sabadosa. On the Senate side, Jake Oliveira. Oh, Joe Comerford is the assistant vice chair and spoke very forcefully about transportation funding. Todd Smola is the ranking minority member, and he is treated with great reverence and respect. Very even-handed, a great example of what the state legislature looks like. I work with and admire my Republican colleagues. Like, we're all about just doing stuff for our constituents. And, you know, we may have different takes on things, but it's all about getting it done. So especially Todd Smola and Joe Comerford are very powerful voices on the Ways and Means Committee.
Well, that's good to know you're not
Yeah.
the lone voices out there against Boston.
No, it just, and something the rep said, and I have to kind of overwhelmingly concur with this. If you look at the delegation right now, I would actually put us, right, and say, take it with a grain of salt if you want, but if you look at what individual members accomplish, both funds back to district and legislation that's moved, right, in the form of bills or amendments, I actually put our delegation up against any other delegation of the state. To say that we punch above our weight is a profound understatement. And again, being on Ways and Means is critically important, right, to have that voice. But it's like, presumably like you folks as well, right? It's really relationships at the most fundamental level that really, really matter. And I'll give you for instance. So I am right now in the process of planning a trip where I'm having the Senate president out here, and it's just, this is great because this conversation just came up today. It was, where are we going? So I guess my asks to folks here would be like, what would be a good way to highlight something cool, the need, and think about it. I obviously don't want an answer right now. I'm just saying this to you, but there's a lot of positive things going on where our voices are being heard. And don't take it from me, take it from what we're seeing with stuff getting done and resources getting back here. Gone are the days where, you know, the Western Mass delegation is kind of pushed aside into a closet. It's just not accurate anymore. We just got way too many people who have kind of really made their way and made their presence be felt and known. And I think we can all take pride in that because it's something that wasn't always the case.
So my final point, we've talked about this, Pat, before. I guess it died in the House last year. But if it comes up again, there was legislation to do red light, stoplight monitoring and issue tickets. All right, automatically. We have just an absolutely tremendous problem with that. All right. This is something I've seen it in California in action. I was a victim of it. Right?
I've had one.
So, and it works.
Me too.
It works.
It works.
It works. It works. It works. And aside, you know, I had an interesting conversation years ago with one of the former police chiefs. That their job was not to bring revenue to the city, and I understand that. But I look at it this way also. It's a safety issue that will generate $1 million a year for the city, and if it stops generating $1 million a year, it's going to make it a much safer city because it's atrocious what goes on right now.
Well said. It's been refiled. We'll follow it.
All right.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Councilor McGrath Smith. And can I just mention that Councilor Izzy Rivera has joined us online. So, Councilor McGrath Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure. I have three questions. One's a quick follow-up around, very excited about the Veterans Home. Just for the room, I keep hearing it being referred to as a soldier's home. I think we just have to keep reminding people of the name change. I called NPR the other day because in their news reporting they kept calling it the soldier's home. And we're in a different generation now where it is a much wider inclusive setting than just that, right? It's serving all of our service members. So I think that's important. I'm a little wondering not just about the funding for the building itself, which is beautiful, but it comes with increased capacity. So then what does that look like to fully fund the increased capacity in that building? And are you feeling confident about that? That was my first follow-up question. The second one was just around, given what we know, sort of, granted there's lots of uncertainty, but we have our understanding of sort of what Holyoke has already lost in federal funding being clawed back. I'm sure that you have a more regional perspective on what has been happening and a state level perspective on what's been happening. And I do wonder, not that you have a crystal ball to look into and know the future, but what actions are you taking preventatively, knowing that we're not alone. I'm sure we're not alone. Many Massachusetts counties and towns and cities are going to be facing these clawbacks. So everyone's going to be coming to the state with hands out. And so what kind of pressures does that cause? How do you get ahead of that and still protect the interests here in the 413? And then lastly, just what are you working on right now that you're most excited about?
Let me see. So it's going to be a huge tell next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. The House Ways and Means budget proposal is going to come out. Just having gone to the hearings, conversations with colleagues, we all get a one-on-one with the chair, Aaron Michaelwitz. We're moving forward in uncertainty, right? But I have a feeling this year's budget, just like where the revenues are, where our enormous rainy day fund is, where we have a whole fair share surplus fund from the surplus tax. I think this year's budget is going to be like conservative, careful, but fine. If Medicaid isn't cut, then all bets are off the table. So it's gonna. My read is that it's going to be built in with contingency plan. That's my take.
Yeah, we have an expression in the Army. It's, we are waiting for contact. We know we're getting it. We know rockets are going to start flying at some point. We just don't know where they're going to hit. And I think. And I know there's a lot of frustration out there, and you didn't express that with what is the response going to be. And I think a big part of it is like we literally have to see what is cut before because we're looking at it from all right, we've got this much money to offset. I want to be very clear here. Anyone who tells you that the state of Massachusetts or any state is going to be able to individually offset what could come in the form of cuts, they're not being honest with you. They're being disingenuous. We just don't have that bandwidth. We don't have that ability, and not to mention the constitutional provisions that require Mass, like other states, to only spend what we have. We have to have a balanced budget. So a big part of that is just waiting to see where we get hit. And again, my hope is that we don't, but we need to prepare for. I just think that we are in that list of really states that really could find ourselves on the receiving end. And again, we just need to wait to see where it happens. Your first question, I have every confidence that we will be able to, that was to your point in your question, we had a lot of back and forth on and by the way, I am the biggest offender of calling it the Soldiers' Home. Like media, all over,
me too.
It's going to take a while. I know, it's going to be a while. But I like your knowledge about it. I like soldiers is army. Like there's much more. I like that. But yeah, I think absolutely, and that is something that's going to come up, right? When we have that increased capacity, obviously we're going to need more staff, more beds, more care, and that's just going to be part of the budget, how we fund it in our respective budgets, which, by the way, both the governor, the House, well, I can't speak for the House, that's next week, the governor has increased. So I feel good about that. And then the last one, and this is different from the House, so I can't speak. On our side, it is really expected that when you are the chair of a committee on the Senate side, you are going to be the lead line of effort in that. So I look at the behavioral health picture, and I think there's so much out there. I firmly believe, and I've felt this way for years now, certainly post-COVID, even though it predates COVID, that we are in the midst of a behavioral health crisis that is unprecedented. I will use that word for that. You know, whether it's mental health, substance use, the overlap. So I really view the cuts to the Department of Mental Health as incredibly, incredibly troubling. It is. We talk about vulnerable populations. I can think of no other population more than the behavioral health of kids. So one of the things that I'm really trying to lead on is pushing back those cuts to the Department of Mental Health, because it will shock the system in so many ways, and it will be a gift that keeps on giving for multiple years, because now I can feel comfortable saying the word data. What the data undoubtedly, inescapably tells us is that the earlier we're able to intervene in this space, the better off we are able to kind of prevent some of those downstream impacts. So really that mental health stuff I'm diving into, that challenge hasn't gone away, right? As I always say, behavioral health is the biggest issue we don't spend enough time talking about. And I stand by that. And to be honest, everything else that's going on, I think only exacerbates that, right? With all the uncertainty that's out there.
Thank you. So I got a couple questions that came in to my email. It looks like we talked about some shortages. Rent control. I have a question. Do you support this rent control bill? That's S.1447/H2328. Is that Senate and House? Is that like the designation for that? Okay. The one that says H? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Yeah, that was a question that came in from a constituent. So if either of you could answer.
This is one, the funny debate that I read in the Globe the other day, and it was about the conversation they're having in Boston right now about rent control. And someone was quoted as saying that, I don't know what they're talking about, but what they're talking about is not rent control. And it was in the context of that Boston has a mayor's race that's heating up right now. Mm. They're both talking about that a lot, but so I have no idea what's in the bill. I think that the concept, right? And I want to be very careful here, because we live in this day and age politically where we have phrases for things that aren't a reflection of what they actually are. I don't know if it has the leg, and I can't speak for my friends in the other chamber. I'm not sure it has the legs to pass our chamber, because there's real concerns right now. We had a great meeting today with the housing secretary, and there's real concerns about where we are in the housing and the impact that could have. But again, I haven't read the bill. Yeah. It could be a variation of it that makes a lot of sense, and you didn't ask this question, but I really think a big part, not exclusively, but a big part of the housing challenges we face that will alleviate a lot of the other concerns is the supply side. We need to build. Yeah. We need to build, right? Economics 101, right? If demand exceeds supply, we've got a problem. And that's a big problem, right? Mm-hmm. Big problem that the secretary spent a lot of time talking about. So if there's no places for people to live,
it's expensive.
Yeah.
So I agree with a lot of that, and I'm going to be honest, I go back and forth on this bill. Like, constituents will come to me and they make these great arguments, and I'm like, oh, you're right. And then some landlords, there are good small to medium-sized landlords here in the city of Holyoke who are investing in our downtown, and they explain some like mathematics or economics, and they're like, and that's why this would be a disaster and I'm like, oh. So I feel very waffly and not proud of myself on this issue. I'm not really sure where I'm at on this issue. It's not going to pass the House. Yeah. So anybody out there who's listening, either side, you want to come talk to me about it? I am to be persuaded on either side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah. Always. What's the point?
I also have what's going on at the CCC? I think you mentioned that you are on which committee?
I'm on the Cannabis Policy Commission, so I can address that.
Yeah, they mentioned host community agreements are unclear and there's not been any guidance. There's a lot of compliance demands from the CC and no way to follow up.
So the legislature set up the Cannabis Control Commission in like 2018, 2019. There was a huge learning curve. You can't just model it after the Gaming Commission or the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission because there's no federal legality. There's no federal regulations. So set up this 5-person commission and sort of undercut the structure because there's not really any clear chain of command. And so we can look at the history, and the chairs and executive directors have been
it's a revolving door
It's been
over
a
there.
revolving door, and that's a example of a systemic problem. So the Cannabis Policy Committee started having hearings in the fall. I'm really psyched to be the chairs. Adam Gomez and Dan Donahue are great, and they've been the chairs for a while. They've been working on this, and so we're having while we have formal session tomorrow, we're also having another policy hearing, and I think sooner rather than later in the session, there's going to be an overhaul of the commission.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue that the host community agreements and and what is a mitigation impact, we have not made it clear. And that should all be coming from the Control Commission, but we didn't give them the right structure to make decisions. So the legislature has been weighing in, but that's not how regulatory stuff should be done.
Understood.
I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. You touched briefly on the East-West Rail. Do you want to add anything to that possibility? It seems like it's been happening for a while.
It's moving. I mean, they gave us some timelines.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna 3 times today, and I just am gonna. I don't.
You don't have a little
what I'm gonna
recorder where
say,
you
what
can
I'm gonna say
press
is
play?
this. I think it is absolutely critical for every single person in government and beyond to read a book that's out there right now that just came out by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, Abundance.
Yeah.
It is absolutely, it speaks directly to this, and I'm telling you right now, it captures much of the challenges and high-speed rail in California. Look, here's the reality. Could it happen? Sure. But let me tell you this. One of the challenges that more and more money, further and further and further into the future, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And what I would say is this, and this is a great conversation the Secretary and I had today about the context of California. The context of housing. We need to be very mindful anytime we pass a regulation, anytime we pass an ordinance, anytime we pass a statute, because of the unintended consequence that could have on something else. And I bring that up because that book traces the history of how one unintended consequences has led to another, why high-speed rail never happened in California. And I just think, look, I aspire to be a glass half full human being, but I see dates, I see them kicked for that.
It makes us a good pair.
Yeah.
Because I'm glass half full here.
I am, look, hopefully it does, but you want to know what? We have so many other challenges in our roads too, right? Like roads, bridges, so many things that are out there that high-speed rail, makes a lot of sense. If I'm being honest, does it happen in the next 3 years? I could be wrong, but I wouldn't bet against that. So I guess I'll stop talking there. I'm going to start getting text messages from people.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the question there has to do with just, you know, better public transportation probably takes a little load off of, you know, roads, bridges, etc. So that's something that I think is on people's minds often. You brought up the stoplight cameras. Kudos. Let's see. I think, and Councilor Bartley brought up the rest of the stuff. So that was my questions that came in, and some of my own were already answered. Did you have something else, Councilor Sullivan?
I somehow came up with one more.
Yes.
Now that we started talking about the Cannabis Control Commission, right? One thing we can take back to the commission, and our own council will be hearing more about it on the 15th. But one of the impacts that I don't see anybody measuring is in the damage it has done. I don't know about other communities, but in Holyoke, the damage that has been done is staggering, and it's hard to quantify that number. And people are saying, well, we've failed to quantify that number. But I'm going to start quantifying for it, and I hope the CCC can take a good look at this also. Sunoco closed a plant. It was bought for, I think, 4 times the assessed value by a cannabis company. They never did anything with it. All the jobs left Holyoke, the business left Holyoke, and that 120,000 square foot facility has sat empty since. True Leaf, 180,000 square foot facility. Sits there empty. They're not really doing anything with it.
Are they
Employing,
paying taxes?
yeah, they're paying the taxes, but they're employing, yeah. but
No,
they're-
you're right.
They're employing,
I'm just being snide.
they're employing no one, and they're bringing, it's not being reused for anything, all right? It's just sitting there empty, 180,000 square feet, right? What could some of these places at Greentown Labs do? How about an incubator? No, none of this is happening for us. Hamden Papers, what, 150-year-old Holyoke company? Gone. The building's sitting there empty now for years, 300,000 square feet, all right? The jobs left for Virginia. The jobs for Sunoco left for New Jersey. Ederon, another building bought by them, and this has nothing to do with the one that's closing now. Now they're leaving altogether, all right? But for years, we've been watching as another cannabis company tries to get going in there. Empty, 100,000 square feet. And by the way, because that building got bought also for way over assessed value, and they just went and moved that warehouse facility to South Hadley. Wasn't that wonderful? Right? You can add to that list easily a dozen other buildings now in Holyoke that are owned by cannabis companies that are completely failing, floundering, right? 5 Appleton, another 150,000 square feet, right? Where an illegal growing operation was run. Give me a break. No measurable impact on this city. We'll be hearing more about that, and I'd like to see the Cannabis Control Commission take sides on this issue as to what's going on with these, and not to mention the fact that these companies all signed contracts for these community impact fees. They agreed to it.
Oh, as far as, yeah.
Yeah, so for them to be trying to get it back and
Yeah.
saying that, you know, and
No,
it's
I
it's
don't
not
have any
an
sympathy on that.
Yeah, and it can't be measured by an individual business. The fees were for the industry's impact, not that one individual business's impact. So,
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. I see Councilor Rivera online has a question.
Thank you. Can you hear me, just to be sure?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you both, Pat and John, for coming through. I think my questions kind of relate a little bit to the CCC, and then something that doesn't necessarily at first impact Holyoke, but down the road it will. The first piece is, I kind of want to like go back to like the unintended consequence around policy, and I think that like going back to the community impact piece and the definition, I'm not going to be doom and gloom about it. There is a lot of positive that does come with it, but there is the piece of there is some negative impact that the community is facing that isn't necessarily being brought into the conversation to be measured. And a lot of that has to do with like pricing and rental space for small business downtown. And when I say downtown, in the Flats in South Holyoke area, if someone wants to buy property to start their own little business down there, the prices are in ranges that are not, in a sense, equitable for the local person to kind of rent or purchase, right? and a lot of that does have to do with the impact of like the race to the top for the cannabis industries in moving into the community, which we appreciate, right? But although they are paying taxes, the communities, in a sense, that they're kind of housed in, and they're all housed in the same communities, they don't necessarily reap the benefits of the taxes, right? Directly. There are services that are being spread out throughout the whole city, but the impact is the burden of the impact is heavily taken in wards 1 and 2. So like, I think for me, the part that I have an issue with the community impact piece is that when it was first marketed to the communities, it was marketed as a benefit that would help uplift these communities. And it's not something that it's 5-6 years later, you don't necessarily see it that way. But there are benefits in the fact that there are more people visiting downtown, there's more traffic, right? There's a lot of stuff happening, but the extra stuff that was said to come with it still hasn't come to fruition. But I think there's a lot to learn there, right? Like everyone is learning, like you guys said before, and that they're learning at that level. It's just that I want to make sure to highlight that unintended consequence with some of the impact of some of the policies or the processes that they're taking, that we're taking the direct impact here in Holyoke. Just with that piece. And then the other piece I wanted to kind of comment on, and maybe I have a question, is around like the stuff that's going on with Eversource, in a sense, doesn't necessarily impact us directly right now, but in the future, to my understanding, there are certain goals of energy levels that we're trying to attain as a state, and I believe that by a certain, I think 2030 maybe, or 2028 or something like that, prices are expected to change and rates will change. And I think for me, it's maybe just hearing where you guys are on some of that stuff, right? Fortunately, I think maybe in Westfield, you guys have your own gas and electric too as well, I understand. And we
Correct.
do too. So we're kind of safe from those situations now, but I think that eventually there will come a point where some of that will spill over to our communities too as well, and just trying to figure out like where people are and like planning for that. And thank you guys again for being here.
Thank you, Councilor Rivera.
Councilor Rivera, thank you so much. Yes, we are in Westfield. So I've got here, Westfield, Chicopee, Russell. So, yeah, so I agree, right?
He's the Senate chair of the Municipal Energy.
See how we work with each other? I forget to say something, she says it, and see how we work?
So you get the easy, not the easy, but you don't get the brunt of all the emails because everyone got their own.
No, but I do, because I also have communities that do not have those. But I think your instincts are right. I think it's only, we kind of in our minds have this clear line of demarcation between municipally owned and then Eversource and others. And I think that gets a lot messier in the years to come. What that looks like, I don't know, but I think your instincts are right. We're not going to be able to clearly separate them anymore. I don't think that. Now, the other part, and I don't, kind of the goals that we have set as a Commonwealth, the impact on the rates, look, here's my thoughts on that in general, and I'm speaking very abstractly right now. I think that it goes without saying that the trend that you're seeing in the world, with many exceptions, is that we want to be more environmentally sound and more environmentally cautious. So that's the one idea on the one hand. The flip side of that is that I think there needs to be a realization, and I am firmly in this camp, that when you aspire and try to effectuate those goals of being environmentally sound and everything, if you move too quickly, you can cause a lot of pain for people, and that pain manifests itself in their bills. So again, it's juggling two not competing things that can be complementary, but this notion of wanting to be environmentally friendly and green, but also realizing that, you know, when we set these kind of aspirational goals, if we don't dot our I's and cross our T's or just move too fast, there's going to be a lot of people, particularly a lot of middle working class people, who are going to be hurt financially by that. And I think it's just, from my standpoint, and I can't speak for the rep or anyone else on this matter, I think for us, what that looks like and what it should look like, in my opinion, is that as we move forward and set these goals, and as we get closer to these goals, we need to be playing just really, really, really close attention to what's happening with folks and their bills and what's going on. Because if what ends up happening is, you know, in 30 years from now, we say, we're great, we're this environmental, you know, just model for everyone, but everybody has left the state because they can't afford to live here, that's a problem. So I think we need to be mindful of the impact that it has on the ratepayers, because there is a lot of people struggling out there right now. And I want to be environmentally sound, but I also don't want to push people out of Massachusetts because they can't afford to live here.
Well, and I'll just throw in there, I think you both have, Councilor Rivera, Senator Vilas, you both brought up really important points, and in a way, we can take advantage of what's happening with the Eversource folks right now, because we're learning less. I mean, the governor has just put money forward to give people's discounts on their bills because it was so stark what happened with the Eversource folks. So yeah, we have to be, I do want to be green. I do want to be sustainable. We got to make sure we've got the infrastructure, for one thing. We can't get ahead of ourselves technologically. And yeah, we can't get ahead of ourselves price-wise either. So, you know, it's happening already. Eversource customers are getting discounts in their bills. So.
All right. Thank you. Anything else, Councilor Rivera?
No, that was it. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for your time.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, and I don't see any more from the committee. Thank you, Rep. Duffy, Senator Vilas. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thanks for taking the time with us. We will be sure to invite you back so it's not once a year, since clearly we have a lot of questions. So, yeah, thanks so much for coming.
And we've
Thank you
received a
so
lot of good
much.
answers.
Yeah, we have. We've received a lot of information tonight. I'll make sure to share this recording because people can always go back and watch if they missed it. So.
And please reach out to us. Like, you all know my number. Use it. This is great. Reach out anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion, the order's been complied with?
Motion orders 3 to 5 are complied with because we had
Yes.
package.
So, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion.
I'll entertain a motion that
Go ahead.
that item 6 be given leave to withdraw.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.